My name is Neil Potter, and I have been a coach and a consultant to software organizations for over 30 years, and I coached Agile teams since the year 2000 when Agile became popular. This video series is about going beyond the basics of Agile software development. In this video, I will discuss the problems of an Agile team having lots of bugs and defects in its work and what can be done to find and then avoid those defects. Please click below to subscribe for future videos. All software projects contain bugs, sometimes just a few, sometimes a lot. It is very easy to end up with many defects if practices are not added to find them quickly and early on in the project. Let's look at what can happen in an Agile team and 3 types of solutions that can be used. So you can see that if we have mistakes in our plan, mistakes in our backlog, then we are feeding work and maybe errors into subsequent sprints. So it's very important to add things to our activities to kind of find those defects early on before they become major problems. So in a worst case situation, Sprint 0 could contain very poor planning, or maybe no planning, a very sketchy backlog of requirements, where the requirements are either epics, way too big to implement, or they're very ambiguous, or actually a lot of backlogs have no user stories in them whatsoever. They're just a to-do list or a task list of the team. Then if the team has a little testing of the work and no definition for done in a sprint number 1, 2, and 3, that's creating and allowing a lot of waste in the beginning of the cycle down to the very end. This would be a kind of a bad situation, but not atypical. I have seen situations like this in organizations. Typically, when I visit an organization and the products are not doing these practices yet to find mistakes early on, their rework rate is between 40 and 90% of their product's labor budget. When I visit a world-class organization, their rework rate is between 5 and 10%. That's a major shift in budget benefit just by finding mistakes early on in the project. And yes, this is a picture of me screaming at most of the software I use day to day. A lot of companies will tell me that they eliminated their practices to find defects to make themselves more lean. Their focus is on coding and maybe some testing and getting the software out to the user for feedback. But this is actually the opposite of lean. Lean, as per lean manufacturing, for example, Toyota is kind of a lean organization and has been for many, many decades. Their focus on lean means the reduction of waste, that we find defects very early on and we put in practices in our flow to find mistakes very early and throughout the whole flow. So just eliminating things doesn't make a company lean. Actually doing more things to find mistakes makes them more lean. So what can we do to make sure that we are finding mistakes early and quickly in the project? Process and product quality assurance make sure the basic Agile practices are being followed. That is, there's some planning done, there is a backlog, it has been reviewed or groomed for major errors before we start each sprint. As work is done in the sprints, we check that test cases exist, code reviews and testing are performed, and done for the sprint, the definition of done is defined. And before the next sprint starts, a retrospective is performed and a review of the backlog is done to scope and check out the next sprint. Process assurance is typically accomplished by peer reviews and audits. An audit could be done by the Scrum Master and the team, or performed by a person outside of the team. Peer reviews and audits can be applied to planning, the backlog, design information, code, test scripts, final deliverables, user guides, and install scripts. It can be applied everywhere to find mistakes early on in the project. Process assurance ensures that the benefits of Agile are maintained over time. We're really just raising the bar from 0 up to kind of Agile. Verification is the second category of activities we can add to find errors between the project start and the final validation. The blue arrows represent the verification activities such as peer reviews, component testing, integration testing, and simulation. These are practices to find defects in the work products early on. Again, peer reviews can be applied to all work products, such as the backlog, design information, code, and test cases. Component testing is already a part of a typical Agile definition, so this should be nothing new to your team. Integration testing can be added in the later sprints when more code exists, and simulation can be used where parts of the system don't exist yet, for example, creating dummy data or writing code to simulate hardware. The third category of activities are validation activities. Validation activities are where the user provides feedback on the backlog and the solution is tested in the user's intended environment. All Agile definitions have steps to review the backlog with the user or the product owner, so this should be nothing new. But what may be new is to factor in end user and environment testing into each sprint as work is completed, so there will be more focus on validation in later sprints. This is shown by the double green arrows towards the end of the workflow. So all these practices together help find and remove defects early on in the project. The amount of practices used can be based on project risk, previous problems encountered, and the amount of available time. In conclusion, practices can be added to find and remove defects, allowing the team to spend more time on development. These practices fall into three common categories: process checks, verification, and validation. I hope I've been able to give you a few ideas on what you can add to your Agile implementation to reduce defects. Look at your current project and see where you can add steps to find defects earlier. For more help on these topics and your Agile implementation, please see the links below.